Sorry about that all. My name is Lila Lakota and I'm here from Denver, Colorado. I just wanted to start off today with an opening prayer of intention. Just kind of acknowledge that this is a safe space and a brave space. We're here to have a good time, to educate ourselves, and hopefully we all leave empowered. So, wopila tanka and mataki oasa.
Amazing. Thanks so much for opening up the space like that, Lila. Grateful to be having everybody on tonight's live stream. We're really excited to be opening up the space for everybody at Revolutionize the Vote. We hope this can be a beautiful evening of inspiration, of dialogue, sharing music, sharing stories, sharing really important information. We are at a very critical time, and we're really grateful to be present, representing both Earth Guardians and so many of the incredible partners that were able to make this event happen. They have come together from um, all across different movements, honestly. So it's a beautiful gathering of different voices, different perspectives. And we have a really incredible show this evening. We have a really incredible lineup of different speakers, different artists. And we're going to go ahead and kick it off. We are your hosts. My name is Xiuhtezcatl, artist and climate activist. And as Leela said, she already introduced herself. So I'm grateful to be hosting this evening alongside Leela. And we're going to kick it off with our first presenter.
Yeah. I'd like to welcome Zachariah Cronemer with a message about how he connects to the earth every day.
My name is Zachariah, and I've been living in Virginia along the Appalachian Mountain Range for a while, and now in the city of Richmond. And out here, there's been a vibrant and protracted struggle against two fracked gas pipelines, one of which, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, was just officially terminated, squashed, will never be built just recently. And this was the result of years of straight up years of resistance that mounted one of the biggest victories, people powered victories that I've ever seen. And it was actually through this resistance that I reestablished contact with land and with the earth at the level of my spirit. You know, that wasn't my intent when I set my sights on fighting this infrastructure. But that fight brought me into relationships with the earth that have radically reoriented my sense of purpose and even my sense of power. So in the last years, I've been learning to grow food with other young people in a way that strengthens community sovereignty and self-determination while cultivating the health of the soil and all the inhabitants that live above and within it. And I wanted to share with y'all a reflection of a time some years ago when the seed was first planted in me that there was something worth fighting for in this world. At that time, I remember having this belief that we have to save the earth in order to connect with it. I knew that connection to earth was essential. I knew that. But it occurred to me as secondary or separate to a political process of fighting for planetary transformation. But now I know I was beginning in the wrong place. To speak of saving the earth in this way, it implies a relationship of management. It implies and reifies our own foreignness to this home of ours. And it is this foreignness, this estrangement, that forms the foundation of what has destroyed the earth in the first place. We don't need to save the earth in order to connect with it. We need to connect with the earth in order to save it. There is not me and then the earth that surrounds me. The earth constitutes me. I am its expression. It is of mine. The earth is not the victim, and we humans are not the villain. It is not a panorama or a landscape that surrounds us, but rather it is something that we should be made of, something that we can learn from. Because the earth knows how to heal. The earth knows how to heal. And it wants to teach us. It is constantly displaying its infinite intelligence that we are just one aspect of. These days, when we speak of Earth, it's often in publishing the latest stats, affirming a state of crisis, or reporting the news of the latest disaster. But it is our relationship to this Earth itself that has become disastrous, that is the disaster. We who come into the world in concrete cubes, harvest our food from the supermarket, and catch the echo of this world through the television, we must let this crisis reestablish and be the impetus to reestablish contact, to rediscover the rhythms of our very earthly existence. And this means, for me, starting from within our own relationship, connecting with and cultivating our own experience. To be in right relationship with the earth means that we need to prioritize reciprocity as best as we can. That can be about mounting a struggle against ecocidal infrastructure projects. It could be about regenerative farming. And for me, on a daily basis, it looks like acting from a mode of gratitude and consciousness, giving thanks in the form of reflection for all of the earthly relationships and processes that intricately intertwine to hold my existence and wellness here. Observing those relationships around me, revering them, being in a place of humility to learn from them. The steady collapsing of our managerial and disintegrated relationship to Earth in big and little ways is the only chance that we have to rebuild the possibility of our sustainable inhabitation here. So I am really grateful to be in this fight with y'all and to be a part of this transformation that is so urgently needed. Thank you.
Thank you to our relative Zakaria for that inspiring message. I think regardless of what we do, whether it's through permaculture projects or frontline resistance or electoral work or voting, there is a profound need to connect ourselves and to ground ourselves in what it is that we are fighting for, further than just which politician we're supporting. So our next contributor is an artist named Ayoni. She is a 21-year-old Barbadian pop singer. As a young Black woman, she has been stepping into her own power, reclaiming her own narrative, her own story over her music. And I think her artistry is incredible. Both her voice, her writing, it really makes her stand out in a very male-dominated field of music. So I'm excited for her to share some music and a message. Welcome, Ayoni.
My name is Ayoni, and I'm going to be performing an original song for you guys today called Unmoved, a Black Woman Truth. Oftentimes in this world as a Black woman, I have felt unseen or unheard or undervalued. This song is a vow to myself and to all Black women everywhere to continue pushing forward for the justice that we deserve. As we gather here today and imagine a better future, I hope we can remember the ones that are going to be alongside us and the ones who have been on the front lines. This is Unmoved, a Black Woman Truth. The way I came unseen, unheard, unmoved, a Black woman truth. 4 years old, too black to play. My first crush showed me all the right shades for his love, and it brands you. You get a new leader and think you know trauma. 20s of breakdowns and mantras. So spare me the shock in looking at yourselves. It scares me, the shock. I could love myself how I do. Ooh. I've died by other names. Please make me feel you care, my ally. Are you prepared to lose your sleep, to bare your teeth, to break like cry in the bathroom, but they'll never have you. It's always been bigger than this. And I fucking swear I split down the wheel of ourselves politically. It's rebellions. I leave the way I came, unseen, unheard, unmoved. A black woman, truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayoni. Your words and your voice were amazing, and just thank you for standing up for Black women across the country, across the world. It's so important to give these words of empowerment to our next generation and the creative energy that they all have to offer. To amplify your own voice, text REVTHEVOTE to 56525 and register to vote and request your vote by mail ballot. Next up, we have Reverend Yearwood and Kayla Braithwaite. Reverend Yearwood is the president and founder of the Hip Hop Caucus, a minister, community activist, U.S. Air Force veteran, and one of the most influential people in hip hop political life. Kayla is a 19-year-old director of operations and logistics at 0 Hour. She aims to dismantle the systems that uphold the climate crisis, and she wants to ensure a future where everybody has clean air, clean water, and collective liberation. Welcome, Reverend and Kayla.
Hey everyone, my name is Kayla Braithwaite. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Director of Operations at 0 Hour, a youth-led, women of color-led organization for climate justice. Today I'm speaking with Reverend Lennox Yearwood, who is the president of the Hip Hop Caucus. Reverend is a longtime movement leader. I'm really excited to sit down and talk with you. Reverend, do you have anything else to share before we jump into it?
No, it's just great to be with you today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So you've been fighting for climate justice throughout your career. What has that experience been like for you as you've worked with BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, and those folks disproportionately impacted by climate change?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have been fighting for this for a very long time, and particularly since Katrina. I am originally from Louisiana. And so when Katrina hit, which is now almost 15 years ago, it literally changed my life. I had been fighting for environmental justice before, but literally when Katrina came and I saw my family and my friends literally drowning in the richest country in the world, then that changed my life. And I had just become the president, what I am now, of the Hip Hop Caucus, and I wanted to use that platform. We had just done our voting campaign, which was called Vote or Die, that I helped co-create with P. Diddy. And we had this immense platform of people around the country. And I wanted to connect those dots. And so, interesting is the BIPOC phrase really wasn't a phrase back there for me. I'm so glad that we're using that phrase of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. I'm so glad that that's a part of the conversation now with climate justice, because there is no climate justice without racial justice. So I'm excited about that. But one of the unfortunate things was that when we got involved as a caucus, we were told to kind of be at another table, kind of the kiddie table. We were told that, well, since you're mostly young people and mostly Black and Indigenous and people of color, then you need to be at the environmental justice table, and you can only work on those issues. Now, ironically, those issues are the key issues to solving the climate crisis. But on the flip side of that, we saw how that really had an impact for us. And we were like, no, we're not going to be at the table on the side. We're going to be at the table that fights for our people. And I don't really know this big green thing. I don't really know these organizations like that. I'm from the hip hop world. So I've heard of Sierra Club and I've heard of NRDC and I've heard of them, but honestly, I'm from hip hop. So we just gonna fight for our people. And that's what we're here to do. So I don't know what your tables y'all try to put us at, but we gonna fight. And what we see is that people of color are the ones first and worst impacted by climate change.
And thank you for opening that table for our people. It's really appreciated. So when we think about the impact financial institutions have over our energy infrastructure, what implications does this have for communities of color and their ability to live healthy lives where access to resources is abundant?
Well, the connection is direct, and we have to stop the money pipeline, which means the flow of those entities who are financing the fossil fuel industry. And we see that within our financial advisors. We see that within our insurance companies like Liberty Mutual. We see that within our banks like JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo and Bank of America. We see that how they have been funding. And at the time, looking back, I didn't really see the connection. I just thought that we just needed to do the issue of climate change and the climate crisis, and that would be it. But then as we now have got more sophisticated in our movement, we must connect the dots. And we now see that there's a strong effort of those who are making money off of literally their business plan means a death sentence for us. And so they've been putting the money toward financing these pipelines, these infrastructure plans. And so that's where we are now. I mean, I think that, we are connecting the dots, and we're trying to make sure that we can move things forward, that folks understand the importance of attacking those who want to fund our destruction.
Thank you. Just want to highlight their infrastructure, their business plan means a death sentence for us. And so thank you for bringing that into this conversation. And then next is where do you think it's most important for activists such as myself to invest time and attention in holding financial institutions accountable for supporting communities of color and our planet?
Well, one, you are critical to this conversation. I think that, and thank you for definitely being a part. The climate crisis is our lunch counter moment for the 21st century. Climate change is a civil rights issue. We have a right to clean air. We have a right to clean water. So thank you for making sure you're lending your voice, because our parents fought for, equality, and we're definitely still fighting for equality. But right now we're fighting also for existence. And so, and it has a time clock as well. It was very different than what, Ella Baker or Fannie Hamer, who were amazing, what they did. We are now fighting the same struggle right now. And so I think that to your point is that people of color looking at this connection between, particularly with those who are funding our destruction. It's interesting that the same companies who are funding the issues of racial injustice are also the same ones who are funding the climate injustice. For instance, like BlackRock. BlackRock is, their CEO, Larry Fink, will say on one hand, he's, hey, I'm against the issue of the financial crisis, propping up the climate crisis, and I'm against, police brutality. But then on the backhand side, we see that BlackRock is then funding these police unions. And shout out to Color Change, who've been pushing that forward. And then on the other side, groups around, from Earth Guardians and Zero Hour and so many other groups, and, Future Coalition, who have been literally saying, on the other hand, like, listen, we got to stop putting our money, because there's a connection there between the climate justice situation and problem with racial justice. And so I think that now we're linking that. And so I think that comes with color. The more that we can link that double-edged sword, the more that we can make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So how do we use not only that, but how do we include voting as a tool to keep communities of color front of mind when we reinvest resources away from fossil fuels and into a green economy and into our communities?
Well, I think that the first thing, we want to make sure and broaden our movement. I know I'm a big supporter of Green 2.0, and the folks should read that report and that work that's been done by Green 2.0 that states that we don't have enough people of color within kind of movement. But I'm also a big proponent of Green 3.0, which is really how do we then fund the frontline communities at the ground? Nothing wrong with making work at other organizations, but I'm a big proponent of cutting out the middleman. And I think that that's something there. And I think that voting leads to that, because I think that people want to make sure their voice is heard. They want their voice to matter. They don't want a middleman to speak for them. They don't want somebody to come in and say, this is what this community in Detroit is talking about, or in Baltimore, or in Teaneck, New Jersey. They want to speak for themselves. They want a 3.0 version for voting. They want to say, listen, it is time for us to be heard. Yes, our parents definitely died for it, and we daggone going to make sure we're going to fight for it, but our voice must be heard. And so I think that that's what we're seeing now. And I think that we're seeing more young people who are, and just Black people in general, who are just tired of their voice and their vote being used on election day, but not being part of the policy mechanism. Because we understand that either you shape policy or policy will shape you. And for too long, we've been shaped by policy. And so we realize that voting is critical for us to make sure that our voice can be heard and we can put forth policy that makes our community be the best that it can be. And that's why this moment is so different for us, because it's not just about voting, but it's about also legislation. I've said it numerous times, demonstration without legislation leads to frustration. And so while we're going to demonstrate for sure, we're going to be in the streets, make sure and understand we're going to be in the suites as well, and make sure that our voice is heard everywhere we are.
Awesome. Thank you. How can we use our individual power to move funds away from fossil fuels?
Say that again?
How can we use our power at home to move funds away from fossil fuels?
Well, I think there's a number of things. One I mentioned is that you can start with your own bank and be taking money out of your own bank if you're banking with banks like JP Morgan Chase, banks like Wells Fargo, banks like Bank of America. You can move that into a bank that is definitely a clean energy, climate focused bank. There are many of them. And also you can move it into a Black-led, Black-owned bank as well, that are in many of our communities that we want to support, and Indigenous people of color led banks as well. I think that's the first thing, seeing where your money goes. I think the next thing to do is education. I think we have to begin to educate our community. Now, we believe in doing that however we can, using culture. We believe sometimes if it's not fun, it's done. We must use our cultural expression to share our political experience. So whatever we got to do to make sure people understand the importance of how their money is impacting their communities, do that. And if it's through music or dance, or if it's through poetry, make sure you infuse that so we can educate our communities. And then the last thing I think is into demonstration and legislation. I think the next thing would be into looking at things like getting out there and showing that we're putting pressure on these financial advisors, on these insurance companies, on these banks, and all the entities that continue to want to support fossil fuel industry. And then last but not least, putting forth policy. I think it's really, really important that we are ensuring that, right now it's been egregious during this time frame, and my prayers go out. Actually, I just want to say my prayers go out to all those who've been impacted by COVID-19 and the coronavirus, and some of our lives have been uprooted. But in the midst of that tragedy, and in this moment of just disaster, the fossil fuel industry is literally looking to have bailouts. I mean, it's such a sick situation in which that while people are dying and hurting and struggling, they are literally going behind to the Federal Reserve, or they're going around to get, bailouts during this time for themselves. And it's egregious that they would be in that position. So I think we got to make sure and push for a policy that can stop them from using this moment to push forth their greed.
Thank you. Talked about moving our money away from these fossil fuel industries, really looking to see where our money goes. Could you speak more about not banking with Chase and that initiative?
Yeah, no, that's very important. I really want people to go to notmydirtymoney.com. That's notmydirtymoney.com. It's really important for particularly young people, Gen Z, and really just young people in general, to just go there and really target and where their money goes. Banks like JP Morgan Chase and other banks continue to prop up the fossil fuel industry. And if you go there, you can learn more about how you can use your platform to make sure that money is not engaged in this process.
Thank you. And if anyone wants to find out more about Zero Hour, you can go to thisiszerohour.org. We're running a Vote for a Future campaign right now. We just want young folks to show up, turn out. We're also doing a lot of educational campaigns now. We have Getting to the Roots, where we break down different systems of oppression, different systems that affect our lives. It's a campaign that I'm really excited about. It's been going on for a few months. So that is it. Thanks everyone. We're super excited.
All right, you just heard from some of the most powerful leaders in the movement today. I don't know about you all, but I'm feeling pretty inspired, ready to go to start some stuff. Well, I'm so excited to announce our next super guest, Supaman. Supaman is a hip hop experimental abstract artist from the Absoluque Nation. He has performed at Yale University, UMass, New Orleans Jazz Festival, Arise Festival, World Fest, and at countless powwows. His music is catchy, easy to dance to, pretty dope in my opinion, and his lyrics are meaningful. Above all, Supaman wants to remind us all to remember what we want, where we come from, and who we are. Thank you.
We need a miracle, spirit of the ghost dance. Light up this prayer grass in my hand, take it to the most high. Yeah. We need a blessing tonight, stand by our side as we fight. Screaming out, water is life, a miracle, spirit of the ghost dance. Light up this prayer grass in my hand, take it to the most high. Yeah. We need a blessing tonight, stand by our side as we fight. Screaming out, water is life.
Hey yo, all around the world, my sisters and my brothers hurt. So I spoke this word for the heartbeat of Mother Earth. I say a prayer and put it down for what it's worth. For those who oppose and only see color first. For my two sons, my daughter and wife, and the father of lights, I started the fight, started in mics, ready to die like a martyr tonight. With my fist in the sky, saying water is life. And yo, it takes a nation of millions to hold us back. This is treaty land. We see these scams, hey yo, we know the facts. Evil collapses and cowers in fear. The hour is near. Let the world unite with the power of prayer. Yeah, my family rise, defy gravity. We gon' keep on rhyming and climbing and shine happily. A masterpiece with my whole body glistening. Hey yo, we still here. Is there anybody listening? From Flint, Michigan to my Egyptian friends, Minnesota, all around the world. Are you listening?
We need a miracle, spirit of the close days. Light up this prayer that's in my hand. Take it to the most high. We need a blessing and light. Stand by our side, side as we fight. Screaming out water and life, a miracle. Spirit of the close days. Light up this prayer that's in my hand. Take it to the most high.
Walking thonker, we in the valley of the beast with these wicked monsters. When we trying to keep it peace, then they take us under. Is it better up or redder underneath my bomber? We was pleading to the governors, then the Obamas. We ain't even wanna lie, just some clean water, just a little bit of life for our sons and daughters. If a penny for your thoughts, then I'm throwing quarters. Cause they never think about all the people poorer. Only rich and the white get the right to water. If we fold or if we fight, we becoming martyrs. Throwing federal charges and Lakota lawyers. I salute the true courage of the red waters. Against our laws, my people pushing forward. Wish we had them at the pilgrims at the border. With a travel ban, pushed them back into the water. Put a sign up on the rock saying don't lauder. Or maybe a tall wall would have been in order. Cause we gave them liberty and they gave us slaughter. No land of the free for my forefathers. Now we're praying for miracles with tobacco offers. To a power that's higher than any man-made office. As the prophecy unfolds, there's no wins or losses. God trumps all self-proclaiming bosses. In the end, when they squandered all the earth's resources, they will learn that their children cannot eat their coffers.
We need a miracle, spirit of the ghost days. Light up this prayer that's in my hand. Take it to the most high. We need a blessing and light. Stand by our side, side as we fight. Screaming out water and life, a miracle. Spirit of the most days. Light up this prayer that's in my hand. Take it to the most high. We need a blessing and light. Stand by our side, side as we fight. Screaming out water and life. Water and life. Water and life. Water is life.
Dang, that song was really powerful. Shout out to our relative Supaman for offering that. I love seeing so many beautiful Indigenous people represented from all over the place. For our next set of presenters, you will be hearing from our relatives Jacelyn, Zena, Alexis, Vic, Jiva, and Larry. It's for me been really beautiful to see this, younger generation rising up, absolutely powerhouses working towards collective liberation, the protection of our Mother Earth, and showing up in these moments where the justice for our communities and for our people is a bigger conversation than ever before. Really excited to hear what these youth have to say about this time leading into the elections in November. So pass it off to the youth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's segment of Voting and Revolting. My name is Tomas Lopez. I am one of many co-founders of the International Indigenous Youth Council, as well as the partnerships coordinator for the climate strikes with Future Coalition. And today I am joined by some amazing young activists, frontline organizers that are scatter the spectrum from voting all the way to frontline organizing. But before we get into that, let's start with some introductions. Vic, tell us who you are.
My name is Vic Barrett. I use he, him pronouns. I'm 21 years old. I'm a climate justice activist. I'm on the Youth Council for Earth Guardians, and I'm also a democracy organizer with the Alliance for Climate Education. I'll toss it to Larry.
Hello, everyone. I'm Larry Thompson Sr., Vice President of the Colorado Young Democratic Party. He, him. I guess you could say I'm also the chairman of the City of Littleton Advisory Committee. So that's me in a nutshell, and I'm a popcorner to Ms. Zena.
Hi everyone, my name is Zena Abdul Karim. I use she, her, her pronouns. I am a social and climate justice activist, and I'm very glad to be here today. I'm gonna popcorn to Alexis.
Hi, my name is Alexis Signs, and I go by Lex. She, her pronouns, and I am project manager for March On Foundation, and I am also a chapter representative for the International Indigenous Youth Council Los Angeles chapter. And I'll pass it to Jacelyn.
Hello, my name is Jacelyn Charger. I am from East South Dakota. Pronouns they, them. I'm from 7th Generation Defenders, a grassroots organization in the local area of Bikini. And I'll pass it to Jiva.
Yeah, I got it right. So my name is Jiva, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm part of the climate movement here with Tomas, the rest of the group here. And I'm also part of an organization called When We All Vote, which was started by Michelle Obama.
Awesome, thanks Jiva. So I think that is our group. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Traditionally we would say from the doorway in to the doorway out. Deepest gratitude for all of you, sacrificing some of your time to be with us here today. The voting process is something that is really being talked about right now amongst people of all ages. And so it's important that, young folks who are leading some of these actions and movements are coming together to have these conversations and talk about, to me, what interests me most is why folks aren't voting. We talk a lot about why folks are, but why don't people vote? And so to start off and kick off this, this conversation, I'm gonna actually turn towards Larry and Jacelyn and ask you why do young people not vote in your community? And I'll throw it to Jacelyn first.
One of the really big reasons in the last couple of years that we have faced with voting is not having a physical address. A lot of the people in my reservation have PO boxes, and so because we live out in the prairie and some of our roads aren't labeled or aren't on the map or anything, and so it's hard for people, but definitely it's hard for people to get registered to vote. And another factor that pulls into that is getting to the toll booths and having that be more available, because I know it is available online, but when it comes to our elders who aren't really that tech savvy, it's very hard for them to get off the res, especially with COVID.
Thank you. And the same question for you, Larry.
Yes. Well, that's a multitude, to be honest with you, when it comes to, I would say, my community. You have things like voter suppression in many forms, gerrymandering. You have also have it in the form of not having a polling place in the vicinity, right? And that's something big that a lot of people don't speak about. And then you all have to do all the traveling, knowing that these are poverty-based areas of specific demographics that really are in the poverty area who don't have transportation like that, who rely on things like RTD travel. And in those instances as well, the bus doesn't even go to the destination, right? So those type of things are plethoras, are build-ups and conglomerates of issues that really target and creates a distrust in the community. So along with these positions of structural institutions, sorry about that, it also plays a role in the fact that the ideal of trust, like there's no trust, and no one wants to build on that either. So a lot of times the politicians don't even look towards the area due to the fact that they aren't voting. So that alone has given an atmosphere and environment of distrust and lack of structural, I guess you could say, in place to build on voting for my community.
Thank you so much. And I love hearing your son in the background. I think it's absolutely amazing. And I think so oftentimes young parents are afraid to get involved with things like this, and they feel like there isn't a place for them, but that's not true. Like, these movements are great places for young single parents, and they help us. What I've seen is they help young parents a lot. And so I love that you have your son with you. Thank you for bringing that medicine here today. I know it feels good to just hear that laughter, hear that joy. It feels good to me. So thank you both for answering that question, Jacelyn and Larry. My next question, I'm going to turn to some of the other femmes in the group. Lexi and Zena, thank y'all again for coming. Question for you, where do you guys feel blocked or stuck in terms of the voting process? Oftentimes these can be really confusing, and some people have a hard time. So where do you guys feel in that process?
So with the voting system in this upcoming election, I know that I will be voting. However, my discrepancy with that is I will be putting my vote, putting my energy, putting faith into a system that has proven time and time again to fail those who they serve. So I feel kind of conflicted with like what actually is most beneficial for my community and for communities across the globe. Is it community organizing? Is it electoral politics? Is it both? Is it one more than the other? And this is a conversation that's been held for years and decades across communities, but I think it is an important one. So that's what I'm feeling right now.
Thank you so much, Zena. And Lexi, the same question for you.
Yeah, for me, in the voting process where I've in the past gotten stuck is the registration process. For me, like being from Denver, Colorado, and living in Los Angeles, I have been stuck with having to switch addresses and then switch ID cards. And so that has, in the past, I haven't voted because I've been trying to figure out and deal with my ID cards. And so that's something that I feel like a lot of people even don't know, that in order to register to vote is you have to have an ID in the registered state that you're living in and voting in. And for me, that had me stuck for a very long time and not being able to vote. And it's just little things like that when it comes to like registering or voting that like you don't think about, and then you think you're ready to go and your vote doesn't count. That's actually what happened to me. Is I did vote in the last election, and my ballot was mailed back to me, saying that I needed a proof of address and my ID and stuff like that. So I think, it's important to make sure people are prepared beforehand and are registered, are have the things that they need, the forms that they need, the knowledge that they need, you know, to make a decision. So yeah.
Can I jump in really quickly?
Yes, please do.
That's actually really interesting. I had no clue. I had no clue that you have to have a valid ID in the state that you're living in. I'm not sure if that is like, you know, state by state, but it's really interesting because I have recently moved from North Carolina to Atlanta, so I'm still having to figure out that process. But I also feel like we are in a time of technology, and it's strange to me that there aren't options for people to utilize like the internet to vote. And I think that it should be an option, but here we are.
I mean, that's just a really interesting thing in general, if you think about it, because for a long time you didn't need an ID to vote. And then just overnight, you needed an ID to vote. And so think about how many folks that completely cut out of elections, you know, and I think it's really important to think about those things. Like these older folks, a lot of them don't go get IDs. What for? It's not needed for them really. And so it's like we have to remember, like when we, you know, sometimes we think that we're instituting things that are just organizing the system, but they might actually be hurting people, you know? And so I think that that's really interesting. Thank you so much for answering those questions. Next, I'm gonna move to two of our younger powerhouse leaders, Vic and Jiva. I'm really honored to have both of your presences here. You two are really powerful young individuals, and I'm really excited to just hear from you. So my question for you is that if someone or you do not believe in the voting process, what do you feel are other ways in which we can go about changing our society and the democracy? And Jiva, I'll go ahead and I'll let you go first.
Cool. So I have to say that, I believe in the voting process, but if other young people or people in general don't believe into the voting process, I would have to say that activism is like the one large key point that's going to be changing our democracy, because if everyone makes a ruckus, then they're going to be forced to have to change the policy. So I'd have to say that activism really is important. You know, a lot of people think that, oh, well, why are those protesters going out? You know, I would rather just be working and making money. That's more useful with my time. But I think that if we do really want change, then you have to get out on the streets, and you have to put in the time and the effort and the energy to get out in order to make that policy change or whatever kind of change you want. So I would definitely have to say activism.
Well, that just about wraps up our time together here on Voting and Revolting. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Tomas Lopez, and I'm signing out. Back to you, Xiuhtezcatl and Lila.
Awesome. Thank you, Tomas, for holding that conversation. It's just really important today and acknowledging what civic engagement looks like to each community. If you still need to register to vote or get your absentee ballot, don't forget to text REVTHEVOTE to 56525, and we'll give you all the information you need. Up next, I'm happy to introduce some good friends of mine. I'd like to give a warm welcome to Portugal the Man and Zach Scott Carruthers, excuse me. He's going to give an opening message for the band before we hear from them. They're a rock band that includes activism and good music within their work. They're award-winning and they're good friends of mine. They also have started a PTM Foundation, which helps support and fund Indigenous organizations that focuses on work that needs to be done within the communities. Welcome.
Youth of America. This is Zach from Portugal the Man. I'm an old of America. I am coming to you to ask you to please vote in November. We have some big elections coming up. We got some big things on the table. I want you to make up your own minds, and I want you to recognize your power and use your voice specifically in this way for voting. So many people miss it. I missed it a ton when I was young, and I didn't care, and I That's one thing. Just from an old guy to a young person, I regret it. I didn't make change when I had the opportunity, and so now I'm working extra hard to try to do that. And this is why I'm sending a video to all of y'all. To recognize your power, use your voice, make your own decisions, read, relate, speak, vote. Let's do this shit. Let's make something better.
Hi everybody on the internet, it's Portugal the Man in a living room, and we're here for Alive and Well Festival. It's an initiative that helps provide mental health in rural areas. As Alaskans, we recognize the importance of being able to stay interconnected and to be able to help each other out as much as we can. So we're proud to be here, and we're going to do a couple songs.
Thank you to everybody tuning in. Up next, we have another powerful indigenous hip hop artist, Nataanii Means, who is Oglala Lakota, Dene, and Omaha. Nataanii Means is a hip hop artist raised both on the Navajo Nation in Arizona and the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. He tells a unique perspective on life as an indigenous person in the 21st century. Nataanii has a message for young people about voting this year and some amazing spoken word pieces that I think it's important for us to tune into. So excited. We're going to pass off the stage to Nataanii.
I'm Ataki RP, Chante Washnay Nape Cheese Apolo, Wakangli Unko Machapolo. Hello everyone, my name is Nataanii Means. I am Oglala Lakota, Umaha, and Dene. I was born and raised on the Navajo Indian Reservation in Chinle, Arizona. And I'm enrolled in the Oglala Lakota Nation in South Dakota, where I'm currently at right now. I was asked to do this video regarding the importance of voting and why it's important that we choose right now in 2020 as young people to use our voices in that way. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've never been one for voting. I've never been one to really believe in a system that wasn't made for us. I grew up on the reservation. I've seen corruption my whole life. Each election, it's always been the same for me, for us, but right now, it's been the worst it's been, I think, for a lot of us in this country. And there's a lot of division, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain and anger. And it's important that you choose for yourself how you want to go about it. Now, I was asked to do a spoken word as I'm a hip hop artist, and I'll do one that I feel is very powerful for myself and powerful for the people that are watching here. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and do that. And I hope that you take the time to do your research on the system, the government, and the candidates that are running right now. You choose wisely. Visions of crazy horse staring at me. Eagle bone whistles are listening to these wings catch me. I feel power in these ceremonial songs. In the heathen's tongue, I pray for what my people done. In the eyes of the oppressor, we seem to be lesser. Manifesting the message until we find connection. Check the winner count to see which ones I put to rest. I'm stacking large amounts, I need to double what I invest. But ain't no one hearing us. Death be indigenous. 2020 here, I'm finding out what my vision is. Half shot off the Remy, extended clips on Sammys. Homie, you lost already if you think you can offend me. I keep it near me, I hope to hear me. With these feathers in my hair, I see more clearly. But know that I'm out for dead presidents. I'm going back in time just to sink Columbus ships.
All right, that was some awesome words from Nataanii Means. Up next, we have Angela Johnson Reyes, who was born and raised in San Jose, California, and is of Mexican and Native American descent. She became an internet sensation with her viral video, Nail Salon. A hilarious actress and comedian, Angela has appeared in a whole host of films, ads, and commercials. Today, she's here to help us learn how to vote.
Angela Johnson here with some tips to help you vote safely this November. First of all, did you know that you can request your absentee ballot so you can vote by mail? Yeah, that's a thing. Here are some steps to do that. Number one, it is important that you request your absentee ballot well in advance before November. None of this last minute stuff, not like the week before, not like, ooh, could I Amazon Prime it to my house? No, you cannot, okay? So start requesting right now. You want to ensure that there is enough time for ballots to be received and processed. Deadlines for absentee ballots vary by state, so check that out. If you are planning on going to the polls, check the early voting calendar to see if and when your state offers early voting. So that way you can beat the crowd, beat the lines. You don't have to wait in line with everybody else. You'd be like, oh, you're going to vote today? That's cute. I did last week. You know what I'm saying? Get there early. All states offer some sort of absentee, aka vote from home ballot, but some only allow this under certain circumstances. Be sure to check your state's rules in the link on your screen. Where is the link? I don't know. It's on your screen somewhere. I didn't edit this video together. Just click somewhere. It'll be there. Okay? To request an application for your absentee ballot, we're dropping a link for you now. Again, I don't know where. I did not edit the video, okay? It's here somewhere. Click on a link and it will take you where you need to go. On your application, you will be prompted to fill out your personal information. Now, this is your legal information, not your nickname, okay? They don't care if Ray Ray, if Junebug, if Little Shy Girl wants to vote. You got to put your real legal government name on this information, okay? The form will guide you through the process of requesting an absentee ballot as required by your state. If you need to mail in a paper ballot request, we will mail you the form to sign with return postage provided. You don't even got to buy your own stamp. When is the last time you bought a stamp? You see what I'm saying? All you have to do is sign it and send. Boom, done. That's all you had to do. If you want to learn more, the link we're dropping into you now will take you to the state-by-state guide for absentee voting with links to your state's website and restrictions/allowances. Oh yeah, none of this even applies if you haven't even registered yet. Have you registered yet? Please tell me you have registered to vote. Okay. If you are new to voting, like this is your first time, you need to register, or maybe you moved and you need to update your registration, you want to visit the link we are sharing now to register to vote, whether it's your first time or just to check the status of your registration. You want to fill out that form. If you're already registered but need to update your personal information, like last time you put Ray Ray, you're like, oh shoot, I need to put just one Ray, not two Rays, then the tool will give you the option to do so. Depending on if you're registered or not, what form of identification you have, and if your state offers online registration, you will be directed to register differently. But overall, the process is super simple and quick. It won't even take that long, I promise. If you do decide to go to the polls this November to vote, here are some tips to keep you safe and to help you not get the Rona, okay? Keep your distance. Stay 6 feet apart from other voters when you're waiting in line, when you're walking up to the place. Just keep your distance, 6 feet. Use hand sanitizer. Take some in your pocket. If you don't got no pockets, wear a fanny pack, a purse, whatever. Put some hand sanitizer in your pocket. Be using that up. Wear your mask. At this point, I mean, sure, it could be a debate in whatever town you live in. Should I not wear a mask? Should I wear a mask? This is my right, whatever. Yo, just cover it up to go vote, and then you could vote, I shouldn't be having to wear my mask, and just write that in your ballot, okay? That's what you have to do. Consider going in off-peak hours, so maybe you're not going at like prime time when there's like thousands of people there. Go like in the early hours. So there's like maybe like 10 senior citizens there with you, and that's it. But don't go after work hours because everybody's gonna be there, and you'll probably see people that you don't even like when you get there. Wash your hands as soon as you can. Like if you can wash them as soon as you walk in the door, wash your hands. Don't touch your face after you use sanitizer, but then don't touch your face still. Just wash your hands first. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. None of my anything, nothing won't you sing with me. Yeah. That's how long you need to wash your hands, okay? Follow all of these rules, and you will be safer and healthier and less stressed when you vote this November. Bye!
That was fire. Grateful that we all got that update on how to vote. Appreciate the critical information. Thank you, Angele. Don't forget to text REVTHEVOTE to 56525. To register, request your absentee ballot today. Again, don't wait to vote early. Don't wait, vote early. That's what I wanted to say. Up next is Umi, who is a 21-year-old songwriter, vocalist, producer raised in Seattle and now based in LA. A former University of Southern California music student, Umi dropped out to focus on her unique R&B sound. Her debut EP, Interlude, was released in 2018, featuring Midnight Blues. Please welcome a message and song from Umi.
Hi, my name is Umi. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your time and your energy to join together for this very, very important movement. This upcoming election, as you know, I think is going to be one of the most important elections in shaping the future of Mother Earth, for shaping the future of our humanity. And so I'm very, very excited and hopeful for this upcoming election. I think the fact that this event is happening is proof that the people are ready for change and are demanding change. So I wanted to sing the song to you in dedication to the change and the hope that I feel within me, and I want to share with you. The song is called Mother. I wrote this song and released it on Earth Day in dedication to Mother Earth. It's a song that expresses my love and my compassion for the earth. And so I hope you can feel that energy through the song. I hope you enjoy. Talk to the sudden moon, wait for the rendezvous, try not to punish you, yet I try to justify the reasons you hurt inside. It's me and the world tonight. I try to say we all gotta change. Oh, ooh, ooh. It's getting warmer outside, just a desert of water, a sacrifice. You don't have to die. True, yeah. And you've given birth to a light, just a testament. Why do I have to fight? Sure, just a part of life. Mama, don't you cry anymore. I know you just can't fight in your soul. I'm immortal and you just a light in your core. Why we treat this life like we daily should go from the soul just to drive a Mercedes, cathartic and all that. All should be waiting on you. On you, I have given you life. You with my pride. I sit at your side. You've taken mine. You look in my eyes. The rivers I cried, the path that I've paved, you've passed me by. See, it's getting warmer outside, just a desert of water, a sacrifice. You don't have to die. True, and you've given birth to a light, just a testament. Why do I have to fight? Sure, just a part of life. Oh, mama, don't you cry anymore. I know you just can't fight in your soul. I'm immortal and you just a light in your core. See why we treat this life like we daily should go from the soul just to drive a Mercedes, cathartic and all that. We all should be waiting on you. See, you. You, 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 oh, 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 Thank you. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sending you my peace, love, and gratitude. The world is going to be a better place. I have hope in that. I hope you do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Umi, for that beautiful, beautiful song. Up next, I want to please welcome Van Jones, Xiuhtezcatl Martinez, and Simone Johnson in this pre-recorded segment about how we can protect democracy by ensuring everybody has the right to vote.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us, Van and Xiuhtezcatl. Van Jones is the CEO of Reform Alliance. Reform Alliance is working to end mass incarceration as we know it. He's also a CNN political commentator, and he hosted the Redemption Project and the Van Jones Show. And we're also joined by Xiuhtezcatl Martinez. He's an advocate, leader, activist, and a hip hop artist, and he was recently named on Time's Next 100 list. And my name is Simone. I'm a community organizer and activist with Future Coalition, the International Indigenous Youth Council, and the People's Action Collective out in Denver, Colorado. And we only have a short amount of time to dive into a lot of really complex material, so we're just gonna take it away. So we're coming up against our November election, and for me, this definitely feels like one of the most important elections of my lifetime. We've got the political climate is really heated. We have the movement for Black lives. Immigration rights are being challenged left and right, and climate change is getting increasingly problematic for a lot of our communities, and then not to mention COVID. So obviously we're facing a lot of change. And when we talk about change, something that comes up for me that I've really been questioning is, who are our change makers? Who are they going to be? Who is going to be responsible for implementing this change that we so desperately wish to seek? And we're learning more and more about the people who are left out of that democratic process, the people who are at the fringes of society and who don't have the right to participate in our democratic process. And in particular, talking about the existing laws that prevent millions of incarcerated people from voting due to their felony convictions. Even if somebody doesn't have a felony conviction, many eligible voters who are detained in jail still don't have access and still don't vote. And so voter disenfranchisement is rampant in the criminal justice system, and it's disproportionately impacting our Black and Latino men who are incarcerated in our criminal justice system. And so Van, I wanted to talk to you about Reform Alliance. You guys talk about shifting the hearts and minds of Americans and working to revise these laws and policies that disproportionately impact incarcerated people. And so can you talk a little bit about the work you're doing and what impact this has had in shifting the hearts and minds of people and our collective perception of incarcerated people?
First of all, I'm just glad to be here and glad to be in conversation with the young brother X, who I've known since he was literally 10 years old. He's already a veteran at 20 because he's been doing this for 10 years, using his art, using his mind, using his connection to earth and to people for good. I think one of the reasons why he and I have always had such a good relationship is we don't believe there's any throwaway species or resources. There's also no throwaway neighborhoods or children either. It's all sacred, it's all precious, and that's what combined. That's why people who are concerned about and passionate about restorative economics, restorative ecology, are also should be concerned about restorative justice, because it's one thing. It's this idea that society can throw things and people away. There is no away. We're all one. And so it's from that consciousness and that kind of position that I've been fighting for what I call green jobs, not jails, for 15, almost 20 years now, I believe we should be giving the people who most need work, people who are at the margins economically, the chance to do the work that most needs to be done, which is about changing the way we power our bodies with organic, natural, permaculture food, changing the way we power our machines in our buildings with solar and wind and clean energy solutions, and just changing the way that we power our politics with more voices and more kinds of people. That's my commitment. So the Reform Alliance is one of the organizations I'm proud to be a part of and help to start that. Of course, also help to start colorofchange.org and the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights and Green for All and Yes We Code. I've always been partnering with people to try to bring good ideas forward. But this idea that you have the biggest prison system in the history of the world times 2 in the United States right now, the biggest peacetime prison system, disproportionately Black, brown, almost exclusively for poor people, is a stench in the nostrils of God. It is unacceptable. I went to Yale for law school. I saw more kids doing drugs at Yale than I ever saw doing drugs in a housing project. None of those kids went to prison. All those kids at worst went to rehab and went on with their lives. All the kids I knew in the housing projects went to jail. So we can't keep wasting genius. We need to change these systems. And to conclude, there is a big push now to give people the right to vote back after they've done their time, and certainly people who are waiting in jail. And people say, well, why should we focus on that? There's so many other issues to focus on. The people who are closest to the problems are closest to the solutions, but farthest from resources and power. So if you want to solve the problem, you got to empower the voices that are right next to the problem, because they can tell you what's wrong and tell you how to fix it. And we'll never have a democracy work until we do that.
I think it's so true, that idea that the communities who have the most access to resources are really the communities that thrive, and providing that avenue to connect communities who need those resources and giving them that power through the vote to be able to dictate how and what and who they connect with and work with and leverage every single day. So thank you for that, Van. Xiuhtezcatl, tell us about how some of what Van was talking about community building, about grassroots movements building. How have you seen some of this work in engaging with historically marginalized people? How have you seen that play out on the ground? And what has this looked like in terms of mobilizing people around a movement or around civic engagement for you as an activist?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really beautiful to hear your reflections, Van. And I remember you telling some of these similar stories when I first heard you speak. Some of these first conferences that we met up at. My journey as an organizer and traveling to many of these different communities, meeting many of these different young people that are on the ground, that are experiencing these issues, that are architecting a different future, a different reality, have given me a lot of context as to what the journey looks like for mobilizing a generation to take political power back. And I think we are in the midst of an awakening that has been long overdue. And I think what we are seeing time and time again, and we're continuously reminded of, is that the political will to transform these systems, people are at the forefront of that, have always been at the forefront of that, will always be at the forefront of that. And I saw that from a very grassroots level when I was 9, 10, and 11 years old, organizing my community to ban chemical pesticides in our parks and, to put policies in place to protect our communities from the expansion of natural gas infrastructure, all the way to the ways in which we are seeing policy change to prioritize not just clean energy for the sake of the climate or the environment, because of this holistic understanding that I think is taking the world by storm, that, as exactly how you were saying, Van, how to defend our resources, our planet, clean water, that is integrally interrelated to defending our people, to ensuring people have access to healthcare, to good jobs, that people have access to safe and stable communities, to education. And I think as Indigenous people, much of the resistance movements that we have been a part of throughout history have not seen environmental activism as a separate exercising of power or a separate issue to the defense of our communities. For Indigenous people, to defend our land, to defend our water, that is an act of cultural survival. That is an act of resistance against colonial systems. And so now in the political process, what we are seeing is people are able to sway and change and transform what happens politically, because as communities, we are beginning to understand the interconnectedness of these issues, of these solutions, of these conversations, from the movement for Black lives to conversations of climate and environmental justice to gender equity. Like, there is so many parallels. And I believe that our generation, more than any before us, has the tools and the vision to see and to connect those dots and to build within those intersections. And I'm really inspired by that. And people like Van, who have helped pave the way for that journey. And for us, like, we're taking with it and we are running with it.
Do you want? It is amazing to see. You know, when I first met you back in the mid 2000s, you know, I guess the mid aughts as they call it. You know, we were very hopeful in those days because Al Gore had just come out in 2005, 6, 7. You know, really ringing the global alarm bell. And we were trying to answer that call, and Obama had just gotten elected. I went to the White House with Obama to try to get some of this stuff done. But we were derailed because we had no idea how entrenched the poison-based agriculture people are, or how entrenched the pollution-based energy people are, how much money they have, how much power they have, how much control they have. And so, you know, our generation wasn't able to do it. You know, we were able to, as you said, we opened up some of the doors, we opened up some of the conversations, but you guys are big enough. You know, your generation, I'm Generation X. They don't even count us. They talk, when y'all say, you know, okay, boomer or whatever, the baby boomers, that's our parents. Like, y'all just skipped a whole, y'all, we ain't even big enough to be insulted. Y'all just, you know, it's just like, you know, so, you know, so the Generation X, you know, our little generation between the millennials and between the baby boomers, like, we just didn't have enough firepower to get it done. But I'm proud that we were able to see what needed to be done and begin to articulate some of it and try to pass it down to some of the young people. Now you guys are coming on, you know, and you're coming on very strong, very beautifully. You know, my prayer is that you guys, you know, just keep it beautiful. You know, it's like, it's so easy to become what you're fighting. It's so easy to let the hate mongers, you know, drag us to their level. But you'll never out hate the haters. You'll never out divide the dividers. You're not even good at it. You know, this whole new generation, you know, you try to be hateful, cancel culture, whatever. It's like, you're not even good at it. It's just like, it just wears your soul down, you know, but you can outwork them. You can outlove them. You can outshine them. You can out inspire them. And that's what I think is going to be the key for you guys. But it's just exciting to see a whole generation standing up for life, you know, and for justice. It's beautiful.
Thank you for that, Van. I think being the light and embodying that right now is just absolutely critical to our evolution. I know we're short on time, so I have one last question for both of you. Can you guys tell us about the power of an idea and the power that one person can have on influencing change, and especially as it relates to time? We move in a really fast-paced world. We're constantly talking about there's not enough time for change. We're running out of time to reverse these harmful effects of climate change. And so how can we build that people power and really get young people inspired that they can make a difference in themselves, despite the magnitude of what is happening and how quickly our lives seem to change every single day?
You know, I'm interested in hearing from you on this one, but for me, everything that's going on is a result of an idea. You know, the idea of conquest, the idea that some people are better than others, should have more than others, or worth more than others. And that idea just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now the whole world is kind of off its axis. The thing is, it's just a false idea. And so if one idea of conquest and domination, exploitation can get that big and do that much damage, then it's a law of the universe that another idea could also get that big and do that much healing. And I think it's just the idea of, love and empathy and respect for, the way that the earth works is unbelievable. I mean, every little critter has its place. Now you might get eaten today and eat somebody else tomorrow. I'm not saying this, it's not a brutal process, but there's a balance, and there's a dynamic balance, and everything at one moment or another has its place in the sun. And no one thing is, every season for all time. No, it moves, it flows, it ebbs, it's beautiful. And, you go to a party, like when it's good, like, different people at different times, get up on the microphone, or this one's dancing and this one's doing something. That's how life's supposed to be. Once you freeze it, now everybody's going to stand here in their statues, phase, and you're always going to be the person on the microphone. Now the party's terrible. Everybody wants to leave. So, we already know how it's supposed to be. We already know how it's supposed to feel. We just have to extend that out further and further. But don't ever underestimate your own ability as an individual person to be the next domino for the next domino that makes a change. That's the only way change happens. It's just somebody sneezes some love on you, and you sneeze some love on somebody else, and pretty soon you have an epidemic and a pandemic of love, just like right now we have a pandemic of death. It's the same principles. So I have a great deal of confidence. I mean, as soon as we all had to go hide indoors, all of a sudden you start hearing birds in LA. All of a sudden I'm looking out the window and there are coyotes and skunks walking down the middle of the street in Los Angeles, because we're the virus. I mean, as soon as we get out the way, everybody hey, all the other little critters came out there like flossing and stuff. So you're literally just a few steps away from the earth beginning to heal itself and from life being able to rebound. So just keep that in mind. Just because time seems fast and everything seems overwhelming, put your phone down. We think we're programming these phones. These phones are programming us. You follow 3 progressives in a row, and then the recommendation engine is going to have you follow 1,000 more people who agree with you. And it'll never say recommended next somebody who disagrees with you, because these phones are not giving you information. They're giving you endorphins in your brain just to keep you liking what you're seeing. So you stay on there and make them more money. And so these things should be used as tools, not toys. You want to distract yourself, find a friend, get a puppy. But these things are very, very dangerous devices. You got to look at them for what they're supposed to be used for, as tools, not toys. They'll hook your brain, but they'll make you think the world is worse than it is. They'll make you think that everybody is mean, or everybody's shallow, or everybody's cuter than you, or whatever. It's distorting our minds. Most people are beautiful. They suck sometimes, but fundamentally, most people, if you give them a chance to do good, they'll do good. So it's not an awful people problem. It's an awesome people problem. In other words, yes, we have awful people who are in the government, awful people in different political parties, different races. That's true. But that's a small problem. The big problem is we have awesome people of every race, awesome people in every faith, awesome people, every age group, every political party, awesome people, but they don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to find each other. And we don't know how to help each other. We don't know how to listen to each other. So it's an awesome people problem. How do we get the awesome people to do more awesome things? This phone will never teach you that. It'll teach you the opposite. And so just know that the truth is that everybody would do better if they knew how. And we just have to learn and share how to do better, and we'll get out of this. I believe that 100%.
Appreciate you, Bo. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good thing that we created the mess that we're in, because we have every bit of power and ability and technology and innovation and brilliance and creativity to architect our way out of it, to build our way out of it. And I think that begins with the idea, that begins with the dream, with imagining, with the imagination, right? Before it even becomes an idea or a plan or a commitment, it's a vision, it's a dream. we have to imagine an alternative to what we are living in right now. And I think that's in part why our generation is playing such a crucial role, and not just saying F the police, but saying what alternative future do we want to see for our communities? What does it look like to defund the police, to reinvest in our people, in infrastructure for education, in infrastructure for community care, for mental wellness, for housing? And I think that's, our generation is beginning that work of the reimagination of our future. And I think, I think it was I'm pretty sure there's a conversation that Kendrick and Tupac were having at the end of Kendrick's album. This posthumous, super mysterious conversation of To Pimp a Butterfly. And Tupac was saying, something along the lines like, it's fine that we're not going to change the world, but that doesn't mean we can't believe that something in our music will inspire the person that will, and that's that domino effect. That's that recognition that it's not about any one person changing the world. It's not about any one person being the next figurehead of a movement or the voice of a generation. Like our whole generation has a voice that is made up of the collective imagination of all of us. And your story, your words, your commitment to build something better than what exists right now is a part of that collective imagination that now we have to do the work to put that in place. That part of that process is through electoral work. Part of that process is through engaging in the political system. And part of it is, through the art we make, through the songs we release, through the way that we shape culture, through the businesses that we start, through the community that we organize, through the radical change that happens in other spaces. And it's not one path forward, but everybody has a part to play in this collective imagination of something different than what exists today. And our ancestors fought really hard so that we could be here today, not necessarily so that we could be free right here, right now, but so we could create and continue that journey towards freedom, so we could see it ahead of us and continue walking in that direction, so that our children, our grandchildren, the next generations can be better equipped than we were to continue this journey, to continue this work. And we have come a long way, and there's still a lot more to do, a long way to go. But yeah, I think these conversations are so critical to help us imagine and then put the work in to see, and November is going to define a lot. And I'm optimistic about how our generation is going to show up for that. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Amen. That's awesome.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Van, where can folks tune in to learn more about you and your work?
Well, listen, reformalliance.com is an organization that I'm very proud to be the CEO for. But you can follow me at Van Jones 68 on all social media. I'm also a part of the dreamcorps.org, the dream, like sleeping, but better than sleeping, and corps, I guess like Marine Corps, the dreamcorps.org.
Thank you. And X, where can folks tune in to learn more about you and your work?
Absolutely. At Xiuhtezcatl, XIUHTEZCATL on socials. earthguardians.org to learn more about what the work we're doing in the communities. Just put out a book titled Imaginary Borders, and I think that's probably the most significant, concise thing that I have to offer to this moment right now. So take a look. Van left a little endorsement on the back of that one. Shout out you for helping me out with that, bro. And yeah, appreciate you, Simone. Thanks for holding space in this conversation. Thank you, Van, for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you, Simone. Thank you, brother. Till next time.
Yes, next time, bro.
As a part of my expression in the work that I do in the world, to tell these stories and to reflect kind of my own perspective, I use hip hop and music. So I'm actually going to share a video for a song called Sides Freestyle off of an upcoming project. And yeah, I mean, if you listen to the lyrics, it speaks on the exploration of my surroundings and kind of just like this internal processing during this very tumultuous time that we're in. So take a look at the video.
Boy no cry, boy cry wolf. Village say he lying, but they never understood, no. The view from where we stood when he climbed that hill. He had a vision of a life that real. I pen ideas to reality, I write that still. I'ma fight back still, that's how you know it's me. Climb the highest mountains and still haven't reached my peak. Crossing borders and there's still nobody in my league. X to the world and beyond, got the globe in my palm. No gods, y'all can't take it from me. I said X to the world and beyond, got the globe in my palms. No gods, no. So I left, nothing never looked back. For the rest of you, I'ma throw the hook back. Look at me, running when the moon black. Get the bag, but we whip. I'ma show them how we flew, so it left. Nothing never looked back. For the rest of you, I'ma throw the hook back. Look at me, running when the moon black. Get the bag when we hit the. I'ma show them how we flew. There's always the wrong time with the right mind. My story forever changed when I picked up the pen to write mine. Moving in the nighttime. Swallowed by the ocean, we climbing the cliffs at high tide. Barrios turn into high-rise buildings. The city swallowing culture, gentrifying the drive-bys. I question the cost of the freedom we fighting for. Front lines living, we say this is just surviving war. If I'ma die, I wanna die for more. Most of the country comfortably sit on the side and watch the storm. Deep roots to survive the weather. My poetry speak truth, I disguise the message. I redefine my methods, I ask a lot of questions. She painted my summer nights with the love and the came with many lessons. Clear water, moonlight, cool breeze. Room in this boat for two and I'll meet you where I swim. So I left, and nothing never looked back. For the rest of you, I'ma throw the hook back. Look at me, running when the moon black. Get the bag, but we whip. I'ma show them how we flew, so it left. Nothing never looked back. For the rest of you, I'ma throw the hook back. Look at me, running when the moon black. Get the bag, but we hit the. I'ma show them how we flew that.
So I'm really excited to invite to tonight's event a good relative of mine, a good mentor of mine. His name is Josue Rivas, and we've collaborated a bunch. He is an incredible visual artist, a journalist. He works at the intersection of social justice and indigenous sovereignty work, empowering indigenous peoples to reclaim our own narratives, reclaim our own stories. In 2017, Josue was a part of the Magnum Foundation Photography and Social Justice Fellow, founder of the Standing Strong Project, a co-founder of Native Photographs, and winner of the 2018 Photo Evidence Book Award with World Press Photo. He is based in Portland, Oregon, and just hands down one of the most powerful individuals I've gotten the pleasure to work with. So welcome, Primo, welcome, Jose.
Thanks, X, appreciate that. And thank you everybody for tuning in. I want to start by saying a little bit about just what we're doing today here, which is talking about Indigenous TikTok and TikTok in general as a tool for telling our own story and engaging during this election. Indigenous TikTok is a platform that aims to amplify content created by Indigenous peoples on TikTok and to serve as a vehicle for reclaiming our narrative. Today, we'll be exploring ways TikTok can be a tool for telling our own story and activate Black and Indigenous youth to vote. There is no doubt this election is one of the most important of our lives, and we need to use any means necessary to make sure our present and future are in the hands of the people. Plain and simple, everyone must vote this year. Our story is everything, and Indigenous peoples, like our Black relatives, have retained their identity despite attempts of genocide and enslavement. When we choose to tell our own story and create our own content, we honor our ancestors and make a path for our descendants to know who we were as well. I would like to share a little bit about how I got to this point where I understood how telling your own story is crucial. In 2016, like many people, I ended up at Standing Rock. My intention for going was to go and document with photographs and video and allow for authentic Indigenous stories to be seen by mainstream society. Often we are the so-called subjects in a story, but I wanted to make sure we were also the storytellers of our stories. I didn't just want to document the conflict or pain of my relatives. I also wanted to show the beauty and the complexity of an Indigenous-led movement. My family and I planned to be there for a week, but that quickly turned into months. It was important for me to make sure people, especially young people, had a say in the narrative about Standing Rock. For one of the community projects, I decided to buy disposable cameras and handed them out to a group of youth. The idea was for them to document their life at the camp and show their perspective. I would like to share some of those images from Tocata Ayoni, a powerful young woman from Standing Rock. Seeing these images from Tocata gave me a different perspective. It allowed for me to learn about her experience at the camp and expand my own view on the movement. I think that's the power of images. They create a reality for us, and when we have the agency to tell our story, we reclaim our narrative. I believe that's when we start building bridges and understanding each other's experiences. After Standing Rock and seeing how our stories were told, I started to explore my role not only as a photographer or video director, but also as a collaborator and curator. I started thinking maybe there is a new way to tell our stories and reclaim our narrative. Then TikTok came along, and at first I wasn't really into the app at all. For me, it was a bit cheesy with all the dances, and honestly, I felt like I was too old for it. I'm only 31 years old. But then I started seeing videos of powerful content of Indigenous peoples made by Indigenous peoples on the app. Once again, I started to understand that when we make our own content and have sovereignty over our narrative, then we can expand our own views of what it means to be Indigenous in a way. Teach, connect, and share our own Indigenous culture. Indigenous TikTok is one of the last few sovereign spaces for youth online. And I think it makes this app so powerful is that agency over the content and also how it can influence a perception of reality, especially of those we often live in the shadows of society. So with that being said, I would like to share with you some of my favorite TikToks made by Marika Sila, who is on TikTok, and also Notorious Cree, who is on TikTok. Here we go.
I am my mother's savage daughter, the one who runs barefoot, cursing sharp stones. I am my mother's savage daughter, I will not cut my hair, I will not lower my voice.
Danse, this is the men's grass dance. It's a healing dance, and a long time ago, young Indigenous leaders were chosen from their tribes to go and prepare land sites by patting down the grass with their feet in preparation for a ceremony or a new village.
Some men would have braids of grass tucked into their belts while performing the land clearing. We dance for those who can't dance and those who need healing.
Makeup is sacred. Hold on, you kids. I'm doing a ceremony right now. Long time ago, warriors used to put on war paint. We still do that today. See? That's what I'm doing. My skin is sacred. You think I want to show my skin to strangers? No. I only show that to my family. I wake up, they see this skin under here, this natural skin. Gotta hide that from you guys. You guys gotta earn it. People say you're wearing too much makeup. I like to say you're not wearing enough.
Oh man, those are so good. I've been spending way too much time on TikTok now. I'm kind of obsessed. But you know, that's the beauty of this platform is that it allows you to see things in a different way, and even things that are so close to you. So with that being said, I think it's really important to talk about TikTok and how it's such a powerful tool, especially for young people to engage with the voting process. So just want to make sure we all know that. So telling our story is important and right, and not right. We also have, telling your story is important, and right now we also have, know that voting is one of the most important conversations happening right now. What is your story when it comes to the democracy that we're living in? How do you participate in that democratic process or not? 65 million people under the age of 25 are eligible to vote in November. There is so much power that you'd hold to make a difference. So you can do this by voting. And by the way, we have a challenge for y'all on TikTok. We're asking all of you to submit a TikTok video with the hashtag REVTHEVOTE for our chance to be featured on the next Revolutionize the Vote live stream in September. And the prompt for this video is going to be, how is the 2020 election going to affect your community? And make sure that you text TikTok to 56525 to get all the details about this challenge. And now I'll pass it over to you, Xiuhtezcatl and Leela, Xiuhtezcatl.
Yo, primo, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I'm excited to see everybody tuning in with this TikTok challenge. I'm hyped to see people getting creative with it, and just want to be really grateful, to you, Leela, for helping hold space. And we actually have a lot of partners in other organizations that help make this evening happen that we need to thank as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Xiuhtezcatl. Yeah, it's been an honor hosting with you. And we just had an amazing live stream, and I just want to thank all the panelists, all the speakers, all the performers for contributing their amazing energy and their amazing voice. We also want to thank our partners, Future Coalition, Earth Guardians, We Stand United, International Indigenous Youth Council, 7th Generation, Seeding Sovereignty, March On, and the Hip Hop Caucus. Without all these amazing partners, the dope live stream that you just saw wouldn't have happened. So just big thanks to them, and Wopila Tanka.
Absolutely. I think now is just such an important moment in our world, in our society, especially for Indigenous youth to be speaking up, especially for Black, Indigenous, and people of color to be speaking up and sharing our voices. This moment will be shaped by us. And at the same time, the way in which we are able to build together collectively, define this moment, is gonna say a lot for future generations. And I'm excited, being in the presence of youth like yourself and so many of the other young leaders whose voices were a part of this evening's program. This was really inspiring for me. So again, thank you to everybody who has made this happen. We have a lot of calls to actions and ways you can tap in. We have more live streams coming for the rest of the year. All the stuff is on the screen for how to text, Rev the Vote to 56525 to ensure that you are registered, that you get your mail-in ballots on time, and looking forward to this continued work together. Thank you everybody for your love, for your energy, for your support, and keep sharing the message. Make sure to text Rev the Vote to 56525, and we will see y'all on the next live stream.